You're good. I think we're ready.
All right. It's 6:59 and it's quiet, so let's get going.
Sure.
Welcome, everybody, to our August meeting here in the dog days of summer. It is miserable outside. I think it's pretty comfortable in here. You still have a jacket on, huh? So, all right. So let's begin our meeting as we always do. We're honored to have on-site international prayer pastor. And boy, that's relative today, international, and what's going on around the world. Rob Greben Spring. So if you would lead us in prayer, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first. And if you would pray for us, we'd appreciate it. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor.
Let's pray. Gracious Father, what a joy it is to come into your presence tonight as part of the city, as part of the leadership, part of our residents, just in this place. You are awesome in this place. And it's not because of who we are, but it's who you have and are making us to be more and more each day. Father, my request tonight is that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts would be pleasing to you in this place. And Father, if that's not the case at this time, Lord, would you help our hearts and our minds and our mouths to come into better alignment with that. Father, I pray you pour your Spirit out on us in this time. Lord, give wisdom and discernment to our decision makers, to those who will be presenting or sharing from the public at large or otherwise. And Lord, you are the Lord of the details. And Lord, my biggest prayer tonight is I pray your best for all that's to happen here and long after this time as well. We invite you into this time to lead us, shepherd us, and shape us. We love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Mr. Johns, would you have the honor of conducting the meeting, please, sir?
Thank you. Kim Strain, would you call the roll, please? Note the presence of quorum.
Scott Willis,
Here.
Cindy Spilgeric. Here. Joe Edwards,
Here.
Mike Johns,
Here.
Jake Gilbert,
Here.
Troy Patton,
Here.
Scott Fry.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Kim. We actually have, if anyone has been following the agenda for this evening, we've had 3 changes to the agenda today. First change, Wright's property at Grand Park abatement request has been moved to a later date. The second change, Mitch Frazier from the YMCA was going to do a presentation this evening, but he's decided to push that back for a few weeks as they're trying to work to try to find some funding. And I understand he's also dealing with the county right now, so he may be in a better position to report and give us a good update at a later date. And the third change for today is that Cindy Spilgeric is going to provide us with an update on our efforts to apply for the ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So she'll be doing that during the presentation time. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and we have 2 minutes to approve. The first item would be the approval of the minutes from July 26th. Do I have any questions or comments regarding those minutes? Councilors, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 26th?
Councilman, I still have, 2 issues. One, it states that I'm the city attorney, and I don't want to belabor that point since January, but I'm not. And second, it still doesn't reflect the issues I brought up last time. It's just self-serving, the clerk's statement. It doesn't show that Mr. Larson said he cannot log in as a user, only as admin. It just seems still very incomplete. But I leave it to your judgment and to your conscience how to fix these issues.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will, do you have a second?
Second.
Kim, would you call the vote, please?
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spaljerik,
Yes.
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, now, next item is, do I have any additions or changes to the minutes from our August 9th meeting? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Kim, would you please call the roll?
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Cindy Spaljerik,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Fry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
The next item on our agenda is the claims docket for August 23rd, 2021. Are there any questions regarding claims?
I have a couple questions. For our legal fees that we're seeing, and Mandy, I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe we need the city attorney here to answer this. Is there a way we could break this out in terms of how much we've paid or that we have been billed for suing people? 1, 2, for the special examination, and 3, just the average retainer that we're paying.
Yeah, good question. Number one, Mr. Gilbert has a very, very detailed breakdown of all the fees incurred to date.
Could you please
For
send that
action-
to
I'm
the
not
rest of the
finished.
city
Let me ask the
council?
question, you want me to answer it?
Actually, you know what? When I want to talk, I'll just talk over you,
Would
if
you like
that's
for me to answer your
okay.
question, sir?
Go
Or
ahead.
do you want to talk?
I'll go ahead and talk. If you would please send that out to the rest of us, so we would all have it, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
What exactly do you need?
Let me repeat it for you. Number 1, if you could give us what you've billed the city for suing people. 2,
That's a very broad question. What do you mean by that?
well,
It's a
just,
very complicated legal organization.
That's okay.
There are a lot of lawsuits for a lot of reasons.
okay. If you could break that out, and I'll finish. And 2, what your retainer is. And then 3, what you've billed for the special examination that you've so aptly overseen.
I don't understand the last part.
Okay.
Could
I'll
you
se-
email
I'll-
me?
I'll
your
send- I'll send you an
Could you
email.
send me an email, a
Sure
detailed
will.
email?
Yeah.
That'd
do
be
it
terrific. I'm
tomorrow.
happy to respond.
I have another question. Andy, where are we at in terms of our budget, in terms of legal fees, what we've been billed versus what was budgeted for the year?
I think that that is available on the online documents,
So you don't know?
not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. Are we $100,000 over budget, under budget?
I don't know.
Who would be, so,
I would think the finance committee would be right on top of that kind of thing. It's available online.
I've got it, I just want to know if you know
Okay.
it. I mean, you're running the city.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
well,
have a lot of legal fees going through. I'm very confused because a lot of the legal fees for your services and for the clerk's services, legal services, are being accounted to the administration legal. So it's very difficult to say what's where.
I know you're
Even though
confused, I'm
Mr.
trying to help you.
Mr. Bertrand has tried to correct and put these legal fees into the right assigned body, and he's been overruled many times. So it's very difficult right now, other than a gross total.
Well, I think it might be, I think it might be advantageous for the taxpayers to know if we are over budget or under budget for the year.
Okay,
And
so
if
you,
Well, you said you knew. What
you
is- what is
know,
the
so
number?
what is it?
I want you to present it. It's your budget. If you don't know
You're in
it.
charge of the finance committee, you said you
Okay,
know.
I'm in
so
charge
where
of the
are
city
you?
finances now.
So where are we?
We're over budget.
Okay? So
I'm asking you if you know. You are running the city, Andy
Mayor,
Cook.
I know that we are over budget, yes.
Oh, okay, now you know. Okay, well, good. I want you to
So,
share it with everybody.
up to this date, so
Okay.
how far over budget are we?
Well, you tell me.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I will talk about it tomorrow at the Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you.
I'd like
Feel
to
free,
add-
feel free to
Mayor
show
Cook,
up.
if I
I'd like
may.
to add, Mr. Patton, since January, I've invited you and the rest of this council to my office to sit down and review every bill, except for the privileged, in detail. I'll set aside my day and review it. If you really want detail on what legal services are being provided to the city and what the charges are and what the write-offs are, I'm happy to sit down and go line by line with any one of you. That invitation stands. Come to my offices downtown, and I'm happy to do it. Blake is happy to do it. Anybody in my office is happy to do it. That still stands. And I would appreciate the courtesy of doing that instead of grandstanding on questions that you haven't asked me before.
Manny, I would like to give you the invitation to provide the city council with what I've asked for. I don't want to sit down with you all day and have you bill $500 an hour to the city.
We'll not bill a
just so we
cent.
know what the
We'll
bills
not bill
are.
a cent for that. That's not legal service. That's just
It's really just simple.
providing
Just
information.
provide the information, we'll call it a day.
email me. I'll provide whatever information you'd like.
That's a lot cheaper. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, as a Topicon, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
To the question, as of now, in that appropriation for attorney consulting, appropriation 330, it is a negative 271, 185, 42.
So Todd, just to clarify, negative 271,000. We are over budget 271,000, correct?
That is what's reflected in the system of record. That's inclusive of all legal fees, including those that have been initiated by the administration and the clerk's office. And I believe there's maybe some in there that pertain to city council's legal counsel as well. I'll have to verify that for certainty.
Okay, 271,000. Thank you.
Just, there's going to be some confusion here for everyone to follow, I'm sure, the taxpayers. What we had presented a while back from the original lawsuit between the administration and the clerk treasurer's office, when you added up everything on both sides, we had that at, it was closing in on $450,000. I don't have that exact number in my mind, but it was about 440 if I remember correctly. The newest round of lawsuits that'll just be getting started are not included in that number. So there's a whole new issue over the information that you've been reading about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the prior round of lawsuits.
So in essence, out of that 440,000, roughly, we're 271,000 upside down.
You know, my biggest concern is also with the timeliness of our invoices from our attorneys. The attorney invoices that appear in the docket today are for March, April, and May of this year. So we're still paying, we're just now receiving invoices for more than 90 days ago, 180 to 190 days ago. These invoices would not have been on today's docket. They would have been on the next docket if I had not requested that they be on today's docket, because they didn't arrive to the clerk's office until last Thursday afternoon. So what I would ask is specifically of Taft is that if you could speed up the invoice process, because it seems to me reasonable that they shouldn't be out there more than 90 days in the rears. If we had them more currently, we could track them, and then the questions regarding how much are we spending on attorney's fees might not be as emotional as they are, if you will, if they were presented to us on a timely basis. So that would be my request.
Yeah, very good. I don't have full control over the time process, but I'm happy to address
I
that.
appreciate that. Do I have any other comments, questions on the claims docket?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the claims docket, excluding the legal fees, until we can get our arms around that in a more appropriate manner.
I'll second that.
Okay. And we've got a motion made and seconded that we approve the claims dockets with the exception of the legal fees.
I have a question before we vote. Can we do that? Deny paying bills for services rendered that we were contracted to do?
We haven't paid them since March and April. We just got the bill.
Well, I understand that, but now we have the invoice. We owe a payment, do we not? I mean, I'm just asking the question. This doesn't feel like good business from our perspective. I don't disagree with anything anybody's saying. I'd like to see the bills sooner. I agree. I'm equally concerned with all the legal fees on all parts. The council's probably over budget, clerk treasurer's probably over budget, the city's probably over budget. I mean, it's been embarrassing this year how much legal fees the city has incurred. But I don't see how that correlates not paying a bill for services rendered. Manny or Ann, can either of you comment on that?
Since it concerns me directly, Mr. Willis, I don't want to comment.
Fair enough.
on that.
Ann, can you answer that for me?
So I have not seen these invoices. I would be particularly concerned about you not approving the retainer services if they're separated out. If the other ones have just been presented and you need more time to review them, your president has said he basically expedited them. So I believe you can take them off until the next meeting without a problem for the purpose of reviewing them. And that would have been the regular timetable.
Got it.
But the retainer services in particular, I don't believe you should take them.
Yeah. That's a contract that we agreed to at the beginning of the year, so I agree with that.
All right.
That's
so-
fair.
Okay, so but we've made a motion and it's been seconded, so we need to vote on the motion that's on the floor, which is to not pay the attorney fees and pay everything else. So can we, Manny, can we modify the motion before we vote on it? Or do we need to vote on
Only
this?
Mr. Patton may modify the motion.
Okay. Troy, do you want to modify your motion?
Well, I second it, so I'll modify the motion. Manny may have not been paying attention. I'll modify the motion and that we pay everything, or we pay the retainer fees, and then the others will wait till the next meeting, when we have a chance to review them.
Okay. So a motion has been made then. The motion would be to approve the claims docket to include the attorney retainer fees with the exception of the litigation and non-retainer fees. And those will be considered at the next meeting. I've got a motion made and seconded. Kim, would you like to call the vote?
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes?
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. The next item on our agenda will be the special, or the miscellaneous business report. As you may recall, at our last council meeting, I asked Cindy Spillier to investigate the ARP funds that are available to Westfield to determine where the best use of those funds might be, and to put in process and in place a plan to make sure that we're able to receive all the funds we're entitled to, and we basically don't leave anything on the table. So with that, Cindy, I'm going to turn over to you.
All right.
Okay.
I want to preface this with saying this is a very complicated matter. It seems easy. The federal government gives you a bunch of money and you just spend it, but it doesn't work like that. There's a lot of rules that go along with this money, and a lot of red tape too. So it's not as easy as just identifying a bunch of uses and handing out checks. So I want to start off to tell you guys, I had larger presentation, but I go off the rails. And so we weren't here for 4 hours. I wrote this stuff down so I could present it tonight. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read it. So we have received the first disbursement of $4.9 million from the U.S. Treasury, and we are a non-entitlement unit of government, so we got it direct from the Treasury. I take that back, sorry. Our second disbursement of $4.9 million is to be dispersed in 2022. And so we are guaranteed that unless something very strange happens. The act does require a grant recipient to adopt a plan to distribute grant funds. To develop this plan and ensure it aligns with community priorities and aligns with eligible uses, I'm proposing that our council establish an ARPA planning committee and retain the services of a consulting attorney to ensure the legal and reporting requirements required by the federal government are met reliably. The fees are to cover this consultant are reimbursable by the ARPA funds, up to 10% of those total funds by the grant. If there is council agreement, I want to move that we establish this committee, and it would have the following appointments: 3 city councilors, 1 member appointed by the CT office, clerk treasurer, and 1 member appointed by the administration. There's various reasons for that. If anyone's interested in my thinking about that, please let me know. And so I'll just preface that by saying I think 3 people have already shown interest or agreed. And so that is Troy Patton, Scott Willis, and myself. And I'd have to get approval on that motion to actually establish the committee and with those relevant appointments. So I'll let you think on that while I continue. I believe this committee will work with the consultant to set up the process to handle grant requests, devise a methodology for decision-making, review and assess applications, oversee compliance, provide updates to the council. These roles may change as needed as the investment plan is developed and implemented. Further info will need to be gathered from this consultant. So if there's agreement, I would move that we make the appointments, like I mentioned, and may we do that now? And then I have some other things to add. Or is there any questions?
First, we need to make a motion to establish the committee.
Yes.
I move to establish a committee for ARPA funding spending.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Kim, would you call the roll?
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
So,
Okay. And our council, I believe, is appointing those people, Troy Patton, Scott Willis, and myself. Do we need a motion on that?
Probably.
I think we need a motion on that.
And would we need a motion on that
It's an understanding.
to appoint those individuals?
You might as well to make the record, yes.
All right, let's have a motion, let's do it.
Go ahead, Jake.
I move that we nominate Troy Patton, Cindy Spoljarek, and Scott Willis as our committee members for the ARPA funding spending committee.
And I'd like to second that.
Kim, you want to call the roll?
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so Cindy, we now have our 3 members, council members. We still need to identify somebody from the clerk's treasurer's office and the administration.
And someone from the administration, yes. And I have sent messages to both those folks requesting that they provide those appointments.
We'll do so.
Thank you.
Good.
And one question I was going to ask the administration about is John Rogers our authorized representative for federal funds? Are you aware?
He's been, yes, he's been quite involved in it,
Well, we-
looking into it, et cetera.
Legally, we have an authorized representative that has to do the reporting, so that's why I was wanting to make sure that that's.
No, we have not appointed an authorized person.
Okay, because there's only one entity that can access the federal government's databases for these reporting issues? Okay, need to clear that up. Okay, so just a few other bits about these ARPA funds. The uses are somewhat flexible, but they are restricted. They can be used to fund revenue shortfalls caused by the pandemic. It can also be used to address negative impacts on economic development caused by the public health emergency. There are potential uses for water, sewer, drainage projects, and broadband, affordable housing, and other items with limitations. Mental health programs and other services needed to respond to the pandemic are also eligible. Businesses and nonprofits are eligible to potentially receive funds, but must have endured economic impact due to the public health emergency, not received other funding to cover the shortfall, and be able to prove a decline in their revenue, amongst other things. The funds will need to be expended by the end of 2024, except for certain infrastructure projects, where the money will need to be encumbered by the end of '24 and expended by '26. So in a broader sense, $350 billion is going out to the counties and locals with this program. But there are other parts of ARPA that have funds available from the state and federal government. So even if we cannot fund every priority, there may be funds available through other ARPA programs more broadly. So keep that in mind as we move forward, and if you're one of those entities that's looking for funding. So hopefully this planning committee will work with the consultant to get the process moving so we can get these funds out to where they're supposed to go. And we will have public input process. There will be some kind of application. And I really want to thank our friends at the county. They've been helping us try and figure out how to move forward right now. And there's also good partnership opportunities there with them. So appreciate that help. We might need to do a investment plan and appropriation ordinance for this money by the end of this month. We're trying to figure that out. There may be a need for a special meeting before August 31st. So I just want to put everyone on notice that you might be needed again before the end of the month. All right? Any questions? I'm no legal expert, obviously, so I'm just doing this on the side.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for the effort you put into this time and effort.
Oh, my pleasure. Scott Willis has done a lot too, as well as several other people up here.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
And Scott, thank you for what you've done so far. Appreciate it. Moving on to then, next item on our agenda is old business. We're looking at Resolution 21-123, which is the fiscal plan for the annexation of the lands defined in Ordinance 21-36, Bonterra. It's up for adoption, consideration this evening, and I believe that Pam Howard is going to present the review for this resolution.
Yes, thank you. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your consideration, we have the 100% voluntary annexation and associated fiscal plan for 28.77 acres located on the south side of State Road 32, about a quarter mile east of Gray Road. The public hearing for the annexation ordinance was held on August 9th, and both the annexation and the fiscal plan are eligible for adoption this evening. Table 5 of the fiscal plan does show a total net positive impact of approximately $21,000. The petitioners are on the call this evening. They do not plan to present, but are available for questions. Thank you.
Councilors, have any questions? Comments? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to move that, do I have a resolution to, or a motion to approve Resolution 21-123?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Kim, please call the vote.
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Next item is ordinance 21-36, which is the annexing of certain real estate to the city of Westfield, Bonterra. I had a council introduction August 9th, public hearing on August 9th, and it's up for adoption consideration this evening. And Pam, again, anything to add?
No additional comments, thank you.
Councilors, any comments, questions? Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 21-36?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Kim, would you please call the roll?
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Joe Edwards.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Next item on our agenda is Resolution 21-126, Common Council of Westfield, Indiana, approving the Westfield, Washington Public Library issuance of bonds. We had a council introduction on August 9th. It's up for adoption consideration tonight, but I understand that we'll need a public hearing first. Is that correct? And Cheryl, are you going to speak to the resolution?
I have no comments about the resolution, but we do have to have a public hearing for the notice of additional appropriation that is included in the resolution. So if you just hold for
Well,
public
then
comment.
We will hold a public hearing, and I'm going to call it open at 7:31, and let's give it about a minute, see if we receive any calls, or. Pam, do we have any cards from anyone that's here?
We do not have any cards.
Okay. Pam, have we received any emails at all?
I have no emails.
Okay, then I'll close the public hearing at 7:32. Counselors, any comments, questions?
I have one question, and this might sound silly, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know in one of our resolutions that we have in one of our policies, it did mention something about anything over 12 million requiring a referendum. Does our legal counsel have any clue? I just want to make sure we're not missing something. Oh, maybe you guys do?
Yeah, Jane Herndon from Ice Millerville.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the question. Actually, projects have to be subject to the possibility of taxpayer opposition, and this library went through that 30-day process after holding 2 public hearings and following the law, and they did not receive any kind of petition requesting more taxpayer voter opposition.
Okay, so then that negates the need for a referendum.
Correct. That's
Okay.
exactly
I
right.
just want to make.
That's a great
super
question.
sure. Okay.
I've got a comment as well. As most people know, I'm on the library. And in the spirit of transparency, I own property downtown. I have recused myself from any votes pertaining to the selection of the location. But because this location is near one of my properties, I feel it's in my best interest just to abstain from this vote, so I won't be voting tonight.
Thank you, Council Wilson. Much appreciated. All right, do I have a motion then to approve Resolution 21-126, Common Council of Westfield, Indiana, approving the Westfield, Washington Public Library issuance of bonds?
Can you close the hearing, Mr. Johns?
I thought I did.
He did.
I
I didn't hear it.
Yes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kim, would you call the vote, please?
Joe Edwards,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Scott, you abstained, so motion
Abstain.
carries 6-0 with 1 abstain.
Thank you, Kim. All right, our next item.
I would like to thank the council for all of your consideration for our project, and we're very excited. And I feel like the city will be, it will just be a wonderful addition to the city. So thank you very much.
Cheryl, thank you for all your hard work, and this council is extremely excited about a new library, so appreciate it. All right, moving on to new business. All right. Our new business tonight deals with the proposal for the city of Westfield's new fire station, number 81. Basically, it reads, new fire station accepting taxpayers petition requesting lease purchase financing of the project and hold first public hearing regarding preliminary determination to enter into a lease. So it's my understanding that this will be the first public hearing this evening on this topic. And I believe that Todd Bertrand is going to explain the proposal to us in greater detail. Is that right, Todd?
Yes, Mr. Johns, hopefully you all can hear me clearly. On the
Todd, we can't hear you. Can you speak up?
How's that? Is that better?
Perfect.
Much
Thank you.
better.
All right, thank you. This is the first of many public interactions on this particular project. I will give a brief summary of the history of this project. And also on the call tonight is Jim Crawford, who is serving as bond counsel, who could describe what this transactional process is pursuant to the statute. But if you recall, and you've all been given the link to a document library that contains several documents describing the history of this project. I believe many of you have interacted with the fire department and the police department for that matter, seeing the need. The current facility is well over 20 years old. That debt associated with that facility has since been retired. And so for the better part of a year, through a space analysis and a project team within the fire department working alongside Pride Architecture, we have put out to market earlier this year a design, build, delivery mechanism to receive bids. Those bids were received earlier this year. Both of them were exactly the same, $12.8 million for an approximately 32,000 square foot fire headquarters building, including the fire administration. So we've gone through the process to lock in a price, essentially as a gross maximum price of approximately $12.8 million. And we are now at that phase of, since this will be property tax funded, to go through the public process. And as I noted earlier, there's approximately 7 steps by which not only will there be public notifications, but notices, also several public hearings throughout the course of this timeline, starting not only tonight, but also taking us through, looks like the 1st of October. You have that timeline made available to you. And with that, I'll yield the microphone to Jim Crawford to kind of fill in any blanks. And then you can add any questions you may have. We're happy to answer those.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. This is Jim Crawford with Taft. This project is going to be funded through a lease with a nonprofit building corporation under Indiana Code 36-1-10, which provides for this mechanism. The city has done this on a number of occasions in the past. The process has to start with, because of the lease payments are going to be paid with property taxes, ad valorem property taxes. The statute requires that the council hold at least 2 public hearings prior to making a preliminary determination to enter into the lease. The statute also requires that the process be started by a petition signed by at least 50 taxpayers of this city. You have in the documents that you have access to the copies of those petition counterparts, as well as the auditor's certificate showing that there were 73 such signatures. So the next step in the process is to have that presented to you and to have you hold the first of 2 public hearings which the purpose of which is to ultimately have you make a determination whether or not you are going to make a preliminary determination to enter into the lease arrangement. Once you, and that tonight is the first public hearing. You'll have another public hearing at your September 13th meeting, at which time you'll be presented with a resolution making a preliminary determination to enter into the transaction. At that point, a notice will go in the newspaper. And by the way, both of the public hearing tonight and the next public hearing have been properly noticed in the newspapers. So at that point, when you have adopted a preliminary determination at the September 13th meeting, we will put a notice in the newspaper that says you've made that determination and has certain details about the transaction in that publication. And then that starts a 30-day period during which taxpayers could request a petition remonstrance process. The process can be initiated by the lesser of 500 taxpayer and voter signatures. That means more than just taxpayers, taxpayers and registered voters, or 5% of the registered voters in the city. So this petition could be requested for petition for remonstrance by 500 persons at that point. There are various meetings and approvals that I've outlined on the timeline for you. I won't go through all those ad nauseum, but the first part of this process is to give taxpayers and registered voters a chance to ask questions about the process and about the project and the financing, and to receive answers to those, and then have the council adopt a preliminary determination.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. So, councilors, what my plan is, I did not want to get ahead of you hearing this evening. I'll work with our technology team to upload all the documents that you've had access to and make those available on the city's website for public review, and that way it's all clearly in the open. May not be intuitive to understand, but it certainly will be available for anyone and everyone to view the timeline and the history of this project. So with that, any questions you may have at this point, I'm happy to try and answer those, as well as Mr. Crawford.
I think what we should do is hold our public hearing first, and then we'll open the floor to questions from the city councilors. All right, so at 7:43, we'll open the public hearing. And Pam, do we have any cards at this point in time?
I have no cards.
It's 1122 East 161st Street, Westfield. I just want to say I appreciate what Todd just said, that he's going to make these documents available, because I was searching for them. When I saw this finally listed as a public hearing, I think it's very difficult to speak without those documents in hand, without time to peruse those. It is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be a second public hearing.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll have these documents on the city's website no later than tomorrow, I would think, so people have the chance to look at those. We know very little about this process. I know there's many who, or some that do, but I think the public per se does not. And we have heard the dollar amount, but we'd like to see what that comprises. We'd like to see those GMP numbers, et cetera. So that's all I want to say this evening. I'll wait for the next public hearing for more comments. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Pam, do we have any emails or any comments?
I have no emails.
Okay. Then at 7:45, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the floor to council comments.
I have a question. Hey, Todd, a while back, when we started talking about this process, and by the way, I mean, I'm not opposed to anything that I've seen so far, but we, with the police and fire where it is today, we spoke for a while, and I think maybe Scott was in the meeting as well, about the public, or the corporation that was established to do the same type of thing for the police department and fire station where it is today, or the headquarters. And there were some shortcomings with that corporation's, for instance, that led to problems with the roof and some other things. And I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but what were the issues with that we won't be seeing with this, starting another nonprofit corporation to hold the lease?
Yeah, you're correct. We did discuss those items, and I think it's important to delineate those. Not only the corporation is a financing vehicle set out in statute, really had less to do, really nothing to do with the building corporation as an entity, as opposed to the design. So there were some structural issues. It was as much, I would clearly say, it's probably the best process that the then leadership had available in the mid-90s. But design flaws, and I think we've learned from those, so those don't manifest in this project, and this can be a multi-generational building. So it's less about the financial structure and how to transact and get the bond proceeds to fund the project. The things that I think we all that have lived in that building are experiencing are just really nuts and bolts design elements that I'm sure and confident have been avoided this time around.
Okay. Can we keep the same corporation just to save the money from starting a new corporation, and maybe just replace those individuals that were on that corporation?
Yeah, good question. And I think Mr. Crawford and I looked into that. I think that corporation was formally dissolved because it was no longer needed. So while we're on the topic of the building corporation, it will be the mechanism also for if approved, the parking garage in the partnership with Old Town at Union Square. So it's going to be having more than just this singular focus on this particular project. It will have the parking garage as well. So we'll get a little more mileage out of the building corp entity than what we historically have done.
Thanks.
Councilors?
So what we will do is get this battery of documents uploaded for public review. As things change, we'll certainly keep those updated in that link as well as what you all have. And there are several public hearings throughout this process. As I noted earlier, it takes us to the end of September into early October. And then on the timeline that you have, we have I think the last public hearing is noted here on October 25th. So there's going to be several iterations and back and forth and notifications for the cycle of this project. So if any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Todd, I would make an observation that, just my own observation, that when I look at this, it's considerably more expensive than the numbers we had kind of kicked around a year ago for the new fire station. I feel, having gone through the 600-page document as far as the design goes, I feel pretty confident that the new design is probably pretty accurate, and the price is pretty accurate. I would hope that you've run it by, and that the fire chief and the department is fully accepted and excited with this design and bought into the design as presented. And I'd also make the other observation that Westfield is the fastest growing community in the state of Indiana. We're growing by leaps and bounds. We certainly need a new fire station. So from from that point, you've got my full support. And having seen all the documents and have been able to look at that you have put together so far, Todd, I'd like to thank you for your efforts to date in providing that information to the council, and look forward to getting it out to the public.
Indeed. So one thing on the design of the project, noting publicly, I have had zero to do with that design. It has all been with Chief Reed and his team. My role in this is just to keep the project on time and on focus and bring in the structure by which to finance it. So they have fully bought into it, and they know more about it than I ever will. So with that note, we'll get these things uploaded tomorrow and make it known on our website.
Thank you. Any councilors, any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none then, we'll move forward to next item on our agenda, which is comments from guests, residents who would wish to address the city council.
Good evening, councilors. Marla Ehlers, 1602 East 203rd Street. As some of you know, I am a student who is trying to earn a degree with a concentration in public administration, and one of the classes I most recently completed was municipal operations. So I just wanted to read to you a little bit from my textbook. Elected leaders, above all, want to be responsive to their constituents. Citizens find equal treatment, an apolitic and objective service delivery system, and cost-effective government to be most important. The mayor is elected to lead the city. The mayor serves as the chief executive officer, while the city council serves as the legislative body. The mayor manages the municipal organization through mayor-appointed department managers. The mayor has the authority to appoint a deputy mayor or chief administrative officer to run the daily operations of the city. This plan has its advantages and disadvantages, depending upon the qualifications of the person elected as the mayor. A good political leader is sometimes not a good municipal administrator. In well-managed cities, the mayor works closely with the city council to set policies, to resolve issues and problems within the community. Governing bodies are composed of individuals with strong personalities who represent diverse constituencies within the community. The mayor should respect the role of his or her colleagues on the city council and never try to undermine the policy role entrusted to these elected representatives. The mayor, in working with his or her management staff, should always be mindful that individual council members may make inquiries, process citizen complaints, and seek information about city operations and services. Many council members go directly to the mayor with their concerns and hold him or her accountable for a proper response. In January of 2020, you passed Resolution 2100. This resolution was to require quarterly budget presentation and reconciliation reports. Within 45 days of each calendar quarter end, the administration shall present the budget of the city for the past quarter and any changes in the budget over the last quarter, and notes as to the changes set forth in the updated budget to the council. Among other things, there were 3 sections. That was number 1. 6 quarters have passed, with only one department that I'm aware of, which would be William Knox out at Grand Park, that has made a concerted effort to produce a quarterly report. I'm asking at this time that you include the quarterly report request on the council agenda at the right time after each quarter, after 45 days had passed, so that we can have an accountable and proper response that is made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fryer, are you taking pictures of me without my permission?
Pardon?
Are you taking photographs of me without my permission, sir?
I didn't know I needed you. I was unaware that I needed your permission in a public space like this.
You do, so you are taking photographs of me without my permission.
I took a picture of you with your eyes closed and sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm looking down at my phone.
My apologies.
Unbelievable.
Next item on our agenda, clerk treasurer comments. Hearing none. City council comments. Do we have a comment from the Finance Committee report?
Yeah, I'll just make a couple. So actually, Marla, that was very good. Obviously, we've asked for those things. We've asked for the budget versus actual on numerous occasions. I think in one meeting, I don't even think they showed up to give us the information. So we have been getting the information from the clerk treasurer. I think Misha's been sending that to us. I've been compiling that information, just keeping it. I'll make sure that we start just including that, maybe with the city council quarterly meeting. And that's one of the things that we're actually going to talk about tomorrow, at 1 o'clock. Just because we are not getting that information, it's a lot easier to put together a budget for the next year when you have that information on a quarterly basis. Any good corporation would actually have a working budget. That was the whole idea behind that resolution. This administration just failed to do so, and I don't think they have any interest in doing it. So we'll have to reconcile that with the budget this year when we put it together. So.
Thank you, Troy. Jake Gilbert, Wellbeing.
Wellbeing's going well. We had a nice collaboration with our Westfield PD on Jake Laird Day and the Hey Blue program, which was essentially local businesses provided a fundraising for selfies with police officers. So the idea of the overall plan was to bring community and police officers together to meet each other, talk to each other, get to know each other outside of maybe the line of business per se. And in the meantime, give businesses an opportunity to donate. And all of the donations went to the Westfield Youth Assistance Program. So we were able to raise $1,400 and piggyback on an already successful community program in Jake Laird Day, and maybe promote a little more interaction and connection. So I thought that was just a very positive thing that I wanted to bring up. So thank you to Westfield PD for collaboration.
Thanks for your efforts, Jake. Do we have any other, Cindy Spillier, can you tell us about the APC?
Sure. I have my mic's on. They did meet on August 16th. There were 2 overall development plans and primary plats approved for Lancaster 2 and Midland South. We actually had a nice discussion. Commissioner Berkman, she provided staff and the APC basically a document that outlined the various details in all of our downtown planning related documents. We have a number of them, and it was nice to see it kind of solidified almost in a table form, and then with some kind of questions and issues around each one of those. The commissioners are taking the next few weeks to look at that and see if there's anything missing or anything we need to do beyond that. So it's just nice that we're working on some planning for downtown. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy. Any questions or other comments? Joe?
We still need the mayor's appointment on that committee. That's all we need to do to finish out.
Scott?
Yeah, this is part of a game.
That is basically the city council comments. Mayor, do you have comments this evening?
I do not.
Okay. Well, then we will adjourn. We're going to adjourn at exactly 8 o'clock. Quick meeting.
Outstanding.